If you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance that you're a hunter or you just enjoy the great outdoors. Now's the time to step up. There have been countless efforts to vilify hunters, denounce the legitimacy of the science-based wildlife management model. There's no science to this stance, and it is solely emotionally charged. We don't want to see what happened with the grizzly hunt replay itself again with the remaining large carnivores and big game species. It's a slippery slope, folks. We need to stand together. Now is the time for hunters to be united across all organizations and show our combined support. Please go to wildsheepsociety.com/act now and follow the steps. It doesn't take much time and it will help save the future of hunting. This applies to residents and non-residents alike. Please, let's use our voice and be heard. On with the show, folks. This is episode 39 of the Wilderness Locals podcast. On this episode, I chat with John Barklow. Barklow has more experience than most of us will ever get in our lifetimes. Barklow is also the big game product manager for Sitka Gear and a damn good dude. This podcast is brought to you by Kafaru International, the toughest hunting gear on the planet, bar none. Frontiersman gear, high quality, completely custom, handmade knives made in the heart of peace country. And as always, we're brought to you by Just Shooting Arrows, BC's premier archery shop. You've sure come a long way from one cat photo on Instagram.
Oh, so I don't know if you heard the story or actually saw that, but that I have come a long way since the single cat photo on Instagram. Yeah.
Well, I was one of your 3,000 followers there.
No way, dude.
I'm old school.
I was just talking to my wife about this. I'm like, can you believe that it's, because what people don't know is, I was essentially forced into getting an Instagram account essentially because of my business. So I could, just follow the hunting industry and trends and people in it, et cetera. So I did that. And then I was forced basically by friends to put a photo up. So I did that. And then what you may or may not know is the very first photo, I deleted in the process of being pressured to post a second photo. So there was still only one photo. And then I realized, well, this is my thing, because more people paid attention to me only having one photo at a time, that I just, slowly posted a few more photos, but I always deleted the previous photo first. So, anyways, and then long story short, COVID, a little more time on my hands, some other issues I won't get into. And I felt compelled to start, we'll call it teaching again. Mm-hmm. And my gosh, man, I think I just posted my 50th video on Instagram a few weeks ago. Yeah, you've seen it all if you've been around that long. Yeah,
for sure. I'm not sure there's a better resource than the stuff you're putting out. And that might be a good point for us to turn to kind of who you are, what you do, how you got started, and how you amassed all the knowledge that you have.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Let's just say that, the pedigree, so to speak, that I've had professionally, is unique. It's unique in the sense that, I was in the military for 26 years. And I did a bunch of fun and cool stuff in the military, but kind of the thing that maybe had the most impact was I was asked to, teach special operations, specifically SEALs, but special operations in general, essentially how to live and survive in what they called austere environments, right? So mountains, remote mountains, unsupported, and so specifically to support the war in Afghanistan. And so, I'd been getting my mountain guide qualifications, and I'd been, teaching for the military a little bit here and there. But anyways, what that did is that propelled me down a path that, not only paid me to learn. So it paid me to learn. It gave me access to actually anything I wanted. If I wanted to go talk to a textile designer and figure out why this fabric works better than this to design a jacket, I could do that. If I wanted to talk to the designer at a high-end clothing company about how to build a jacket, I could do that. If I wanted to talk to an athlete, be it a mountaineer, a hunter, and say, how are you able to move through the mountains so efficiently? How do you do this? How do you do that? Like, no matter what it was, we had access to it. And so as you can imagine, I learned a lot, and that learning was diverse, but the learning didn't stop there, because that would have been enough for me personally. But where the really unique story comes in is, now that I had that knowledge and I was gaining it and I was continuing to learn, I was then tasked with taking that knowledge, putting it in the lesson plans, and teaching other people, because the knowledge did no good in my head or my buddies' heads. We needed to teach these guys how to incorporate that knowledge into the real world. And so we would learn, we would teach, we would learn from the teaching, because we would say, okay, well, the way we taught this wasn't really, they didn't really pick up on it, or, hey, we actually need to learn how to teach this 3 different ways, because there's really, 3 different ways of learning here, or whatever it was. And I did that for so long. And of course I applied it to my personal life and my hunting and my climbing. I mean, why wouldn't I? Right.
Yeah.
That I ended up walking away with, I wouldn't say it's unique for sure. I wouldn't say I'm not the only one, but there ain't a lot of us that have kind of like the full scope of the information and how to apply it. And so just to kind of jump to present day, I miss teaching, and I realized that with all this knowledge in my head, and, I work for Sitka Gear, if people don't know, but I was applying the knowledge to what I was building, but I felt like some of the stuff I was doing was falling flat because people didn't actually understand the full intent behind it. And so I just realized that I could do something about that by starting to teach again. And I'm using Instagram as the platform right now. I've got some other things I'm building, but, and that kind of takes us to present day where, I've got 50 some videos online and I haven't even, quite frankly, scratched the surface.
Yeah. You, you were one of those guys that before you started posting those videos, John, you were one of those guys that you would pick up little tidbits and pieces from when you were on Cleared Hot with Andy or doing stuff with these different industry guys. You'd be like, man, this guy sure knows a lot of stuff. Just oodles and oodles of good information. Right. And, I heard you say on Cleared Hot a while ago, you're like, when you got out of the military, you wrote a book and you're just using it as a reference guide. That's a pretty interesting thing to do. There's not too many dudes out there that have so much information in their head, they want to catalog it.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is I wrote a book and let's just say I wrote a manuscript, or I wrote a bunch of stuff down in chapters, how I organized it. But I've been adding to that for the last 7 years. And that book those chapters have grown, I think, from 12. I think I'm up to 30 or 31 chapters now.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know. Part of what you see in the videos is just snippets from that. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I'll do with it going forward. I've got some plans. We'll see.
Yeah.
But right now it's but I want to listen, I know it might sound corny, but I truly just want to help people have a great time outside. And I'm like, you know what? The most selfish thing I could do is just keep it in my head and not talk about it. And quite frankly, the reason I did it is because, I don't really think I'm all that special. I didn't really want to be in the spotlight, so to speak. But I realized that was just being more selfish and that I was better off just getting it out there. And I've just been trying to take a pretty easy approach to it. People seem to be liking it. I seem to be liking it. So as long as those two things continue, then I'll just keep doing it,
That's cool, man. And like you are, you're achieving your objective for sure. You're helping people have a good time out there, man. And you're passing on a lot of knowledge. Quite a few of the conversations I have about guys with gear, I mean, you come up, the videos come up. So, they're definitely serving their purpose, man.
Well, that's awesome. 'Cause, ultimately, I try to be, I try to be as unbiased a human as I can when I kind of teach.
Mm-hmm.
But of course we're human, so it's hard to be completely unbiased. But, I get people that reach out and they're like, hey man, like you said this, or, you recommended doing it this way, and I do it this way. And most of the time, unless it's something, completely foolish or unsafe, I'm like, yeah, that's totally legit. And my point to this is, and I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, which was, especially an instructor, somebody who's kind of in a position to teach, but if somebody sits there and says, this is the only way to do this thing, or this is the only thing to use to do this thing, except for maybe some really rare, bizarre occasion I can't think of off the top of my head, those people are either full of shit or they don't really know what they're talking about. Because the reality is there's lots of ways to skin the cat. And I may have a couple of my favorites that I default to, but if I have 3 ways of starting a fire, there may be a dozen. And they're all okay, as long as you kind of understand the foundation.
Yeah. I heard you say on Cleared Hot there with Andy, there's multiple ways to skin a cat like you just did, but some of those ways are not the way that you would teach it to a guy that's just starting out, right?
No, yeah. There's something called primacy when you're teaching. And so basically what that is, especially if it's something you're completely new to. So let's just say shooting a pistol as an example.
Mm-hmm.
The way somebody would teach you to shoot the pistol for your first time, so day 1 or week 1, is the way you're going to remember. And if that way is not foundationally sound and kind of accurate in its information, then you're going to have a really tough time and struggle with trying to learn a different way later on.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I've realized, and it's not just because of the military, because, the joke is, oh, you just got to dumb it down for the military.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what the military does is we do a really good job of boiling it down to the basics or the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And you always have to default back to that. And I think if you can boil it down to the basics and the fundamentals, as much as I would love to talk about, the high speed stuff on day 1, the reality is you need to spend, a week talking about the basics, and everything kind of defaults back to the basics, in a stressful situation. If you've practiced building a fire, you're going to build the fire the way you trained. If the way you shoot the bow and work with the bow is the way you're going to shoot it, under duress when that elk's coming in bugling his head off. So,
mm-hmm.
It just always goes down back to the fundamentals. And I think we've been really good about doing that. And I think the one thing I would layer on with the military is when you're teaching, they call it high risk training, but when you're teaching something that's high risk or dangerous, be it shooting, skydiving, diving, whatever the case may be, climbing,
mm-hmm.
You want to keep those basics front of mind, because those basics are what keep you alive.
Yeah.
And in so many ways, it just gets ingrained in your head. And so that's kind of the way I think. And I guess, that's what I try to portray anyways in my information.
Yeah, that's really cool. A guy that I think we're both friends with, Trevor Thompson, was talking about it. I don't know if we were talking about it offline or on here. We were talking about how you always kind of default to your like most basic level of training, right? Like that's kind of where you end up.
You fall back to that most basic level.
Yeah.
So again, it's those fundamentals. It's what you do under stress that matters, not what you do in your backyard, but what you do under stress. And so that's, I'm a big proponent of training, mostly because it's fun, right? Like, hey man, hunting season's not that long. So what are you going to do the rest of the hunting, the rest of the year? So I like to say there's no off season. It's like, oh man, now's the time to go work on your boots. Now's the time to go build a fire. Now's the time to go learn the land navigation. Now's the time to go practice, shooting your bow or your rifle or whatever it is. It's like, that's the fun part, but that's really what's going to build that, that slowly over time, build that foundation for somebody who, especially people that are starting out, or people, that say live back east and want to come out to the mountains. There's a steep learning curve, and it's not something you just like read a book, watch or read a book or watch a video and come out and just, master right away.
Yeah, man. Well, I live in BC here, and it's like, there's so many things for us to do in that August 1st to December 20th window. And I mean, some guys carry it into the winter too with, goat hunting and stuff like that. But there's so many different disciplines for us to try to get good at. I don't understand how you could ever not be working towards getting more proficient. You know what I mean? I started hunting later in life in my 20s, and I'm barely scraping the surface on a lot of this stuff. And it's like you're saying, it's all year I'm working on it.
Yeah, but and I agree. And obviously I'm in Montana. We're a lot luckier than some in that regard. But I also think it's mindset. So it's not just going out there and going on a hike or going on a hunt or riding your snow machine or whatever it is. But it's kind of thinking through it. How did that go? Like, was I warm? Was I dry? Was I freezing my ass off? Like, was I hungry? Like, did I eat all my food? Like, and just constantly kind of assessing what you're doing and kind of having this I call it the active participant mindset. But like, I'm not just going out there and just putting in the miles, but I'm trying to think about it. I'm trying to improve, I'm trying to tweak gear. Again, it's fun stuff, it's like, at heart, we're probably all a bunch of, gear junkies. So, and so that's where I think the fun part comes in, is that, you're out there and you're getting a workout in or whatever, but you're also like testing out some clothing, and maybe you're testing out some new food, and it all just kind of comes together when, whatever it is you do it outside, be it hunting or whatever it is, that, and if something does go wrong, or when at least the conditions get more difficult, you don't just sit there and freak out. You're like, oh no, I've been here. I know how this works. I can figure this out.
Yeah. And like, even if you haven't been there, like you're saying, being an active participant, when stuff goes sideways, you learn from it, right?
Man, I think, I've learned more from my mistakes for sure. And some, a bunch of shitty nights out in the mountains than I did when the weather was good and everything went right. And the bull came and jumped right on the end of my arrow and killed himself. Like, those are great days. And I wish I had more of them, but I definitely learn more when it's not necessarily going my way.
Yeah. I find the further I get into hunting and like the more experience I gain, the hunts just get harder and the suck factor like stays the same, because I'm just continually finding more and more things to challenge myself, like now, I've made a whole, a ton of mistakes and I've learned from them, but now I'm finding new mistakes and new challenges, there's a lot of growth that goes on in hunting.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like, if you only go out in the good weather and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm going to go out late season. And the suck factor goes up, but your capabilities are kind of matching that, hopefully, or they will. I like for many years, I would go late season goat hunting in Alaska, and, a lot of those hunts, it was really blurring the lines between alpine climbing and mountaineering and hunting. I'd incorporate skis, I'd incorporate, ice axes. I mean, you name it. But to me, it was just a natural progression of like just what I did in the mountains. But yeah, no, you're right. And again, that's where, to me, that's where like the fun and adventure come from, is kind of doing that and growing and challenging yourself.
Yeah. So, you were in the military for, I think I heard you say 26 years, right?
Yeah.
And did you grow up out West?
Did I grow? Oh no, I grew up back east in like the Midwest, kind of Ohio, northern Ohio, on Lake Erie.
Oh, cool. So
man, I dreamed of coming out west, but nobody I knew climbed, skied, hunted, like did any of it.
Yeah.
So
did you grew up chasing whitetails then, probably?
Well, chasing would be the right word. Scaring maybe is the better word, but self-taught archery hunter trying to hunt turkeys and white-tailed deer does not equal a lot of success. That's for sure. But there's some of my fondest hunting memories. But I wasn't even average. I mean, I was just horrible, but I enjoyed the hell out of it.
The John Dudleys on YouTube didn't exist back then, huh?
No. You read the one article of, Chuck Adams or Jim Doherty in Bowhunter magazine back in the day. And, that was my inspiration.
That's awesome. So, when you were in the military then, were you still getting after it hunting, or were you completely occupied, teaching guys how to survive?
It just depended where I was in my career. So, when I was back east in Virginia Beach, I did quite a bit of waterfowl hunting back there, actually, because it was just, it was a thing to do, and it was super cool and challenging and a lot of fun. I did some whitetail hunting, but not too much when I was in Virginia. Went out to California.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where I concentrated most of my time on the mountains, climbing, skiing, a little bit of hunting, but not quite as much.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I transferred up to Alaska, it all came back to me. I mean, I was literally, for so many reasons, living my childhood dreams. Like I've been a lucky guy in the sense that, like, I never wanted to make any money in the world. I just wanted to have adventure, and I've been able to do that. And I've literally lived like most of my childhood dreams, and going to Alaska and being able to hunt there and all those diverse species, predominantly an archery hunter, every chance I got when we had a day off or weren't working, or, it was season, which there's some pretty long seasons up there.
Yeah.
Definitely was getting after it.
That's awesome. How long were you in Alaska for?
I was trying to think. I think about 13 years.
Oh yeah. So you were able to cross some stuff off the list then. Yeah.
I mean, I certainly didn't. I got to hunt it all, but I didn't necessarily get to kill it all. But had a blast. I mean, the opportunities. It's similar. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it's similar in like you have in BC, where we have access to sheep that, in Alaska that, you could just hunt over the counter every year.
Yeah.
Mountain goats. I mean, all the species, I think everything but muskox you could hunt over the counter. Just go buy a tag as a resident and go hunt if you wanted to. And, maybe it wasn't the best unit or area, but you could definitely go hunt. So
yeah, man,
it's almost too much to do, to be honest with you. It gets a little overwhelming.
Yeah, that's the boat I'm in right now. I have so many things that I want to do, and it's like every year, like you said earlier, the season is short, and you kind of got to pick and choose your battles and make sure you dedicate enough time to each thing that you're trying to do each season in BC anyways, right?
Yeah. I'm going to go back to Alaska this year for the first time since I left. So about about 7 years ago, I guess. It'll be 7 years, I think, when I go back that I've left, and I'll go back and hunt caribou with a buddy. And I was going to last year, and then, with all the virus stuff and just unknowns, if we could travel, just kind of put it on hold a year. And I shouldn't have, because he killed an absolute giant. But anyway, so I'm going to go back this year. I'm really looking forward to it. And, just getting back in that country again and moving around. But, it really, depending on where you live, it's kind of the animals you concentrate on. And so, caribou is one that I had to travel quite a bit where I used to live to get to caribou country. So I'm like, heck yeah, I'm going back and hunting caribou. Like, I don't want to go back and hunt the same things I hunted a lot. Like, I hunted a lot of black-tailed deer, a lot of Roosevelt elk, a lot of bears, a lot of mountain goats. But
yeah, that's actually what I was going to ask next, is kind of what species did you cut your teeth on? That sounds like blacktail and rosies, right?
Yeah. Hunted a lot of blacktail, just because they were super prevalent. And I think when I got to Kodiak, you could shoot 5 or 6. I can't remember exactly. Some of the best tasting, I think it's some of the August blacktail, some of the best venison on the planet, in my opinion. But, had definitely hunted whitetails and killed a few. I don't know if I'd killed a muley by the time I got up there or not, but yeah, definitely a lot of blacktails. I was able to, I went on a, kind of a mountain goat hunting binge, cause I could get a tag every year in the late season. It was archery only. And, I told you it kind of got really kind of Western and adventurous, and, did a lot of that, spent a lot of time hunting bears, and then Roosevelt elk, for sure. Cause those were kind of the species that were, easiest to get to, not super expensive, to access. And, definitely got to hunt, Doll, sheep, and, never got to hunt grizz, but, or never did go hunt grizz, but, definitely, I guess, cause the bear thing was kind of over it by the time I left Kodiak, but, definitely moose, caribou, and sheep, chased around the mainland. Never went after muskox, just never was able to pull that tag.
Oh yeah.
It's a pretty difficult tag to pull. So, but when I was living there, I started traveling back down to the lower 48 to start pursuing elk, which, it's kind of become my passion. It's, it's funny. It's like whatever you have, you don't want. And it's like, dude, you can hunt mountain goat and Dall sheep and brown bear. It's like, yeah, but I want to go hunt elk now. I want to go hunt Rocky Mountain elk. And, so it's cool.
I relate to that, man. Like, I hunt southwestern BC elk, which is arguably the worst place to hunt elk in BC, just because there's not a ton of them. It's super thick, but it's just super fun, and it's super accessible to me. I live I live a couple hours out of Vancouver, so I'm only a couple hours from the elk, and I can get day hunts in, and it's just like, it's my passion, man. So I relate to what you're saying a ton about chasing elk, and man, they're fun. They're so fun.
Oh yeah.
So believe it or not, this August, me and a couple of the dudes that helped me with the podcast we're going on our first goat hunt, and it's an archery goat hunt, basically exactly what you're describing.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
In August, you said?
Yeah. Mid-August. It should be really cool. It's an archery only unit. And so what I was going to ask you is, for a couple dudes that have never chased goats before, what's the Barklow quick tip?
So I guess the first two things that come to mind is, in my opinion, a mountain goat is the toughest animal to kill in North America, especially with a bow. I've never seen something as tough and tenacious. And not only when you get a good arrow in them, they're not going to go down. They're going to go and put themselves in the most dangerous, sketchy terrain for the recovery. That may just challenge you to even, recover the animal. So, they're they're super cool. But the second thing I would tell you is I don't feel that they're nearly as difficult to hunt as most people portray it. And I think one of the reasons is because most people don't get to hunt them very often. You know, I mean, I've killed 5 with my bow, and I've probably been on at least, I'll bet you I've been on 30 mountain goat hunts, successful mountain goat hunts, right? Outside of my own successful ones. So I've got to hunt them a lot. I've got to observe the species, and they're not sketchy. They're a lot. They'll put up with a lot more than you think, you know. They live in mountains where they use the terrain to their advantage. You know, they exploit the terrain to their advantage. And so, you know, you can make a little noise. They can see a little movement. They're not going to run away at the first sign of sight of a human like a whitetail would, you know, or possibly a dull sheep. So, you know, it's really the terrain that you have to maneuver around. But I think they're one of the most underappreciated animals in North America. I mean, they are just absolutely incredible beasts that are super cool if you get to hunt them.
Yeah, we were actually talking to a few guys that are hardcore stone sheep guys being here in BC. I always ask, why not mountain goats? And I mean, like we were talking to Nick Treehern too, the photographer, and he just loves them. And he figures they're the most underrated species in North America too. Like guys seem to skip right over the mountain goat thing and go straight to sheep.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well, I don't want to piss anybody off, but sheep are easier to hunt than mountain goats. And the reason I say that statement, let me quantify that statement is because of the terrain that a sheep is in compared to a mountain goat, right? So a sheep's going to kind of stay in those, you know, generally speaking, a little more mellow rolling terrain. They're going to be in, you know, little grass patches. The mountain goats come down to those possibly to feed, but you know, to go and actually go after them, like you're looking down on dull sheep when you're hunting mountain goats, you know? And so they're a more of a physical challenge, I think, to access. I don't think they're as sketchy because I think they're just so used to being up there alone. But they're absolutely, I mean, they're just magnificent. I think the only thing that, you know, if they had horns like a dull sheep, you know, everybody be pursuing them and the cost of a hunt would be through the roof. But, you know, when you're looking at a billy where, you know, I think Boone and Crockett's 50 inches is the score. So you're looking at, you know, 10 inch length of a horn with 6 inch bases. It carries a little mass. It's like, it's not that impressive compared to a big sheep.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that impressive compared to, but man, when you get up to them and you see how burly they are and you look at their chaps and their beard and, you know, and if you get to watch them in the rut when they're bashing each other, and I mean, they are just beasts, man. They are awesome. And you know what? I think they eat really good. I mean, I've had a few that were tough because they were old, but I mean, even my wife is a little sensitive to eating some venison. Like she loves mountain goat.
Oh, right on. That's good to know too.
Yeah.
We're just actually gearing up here to do a goat count actually in the valley that I live in for the Goat Alliance is putting it on. It's an area that it's an area that there hasn't been a goat hunt, I think, since the 60s. And a dude I'm buddies with did one of the last hunts in the area. So it'd be pretty cool to go into an area here in coastal BC down south where there hasn't been a lot of goats documented in a long time and find some of them. A few of my buddies have been finding them, and it's like, I mean, you probably know what coastal BC is like. It's just stupid steep, right?
Oh yeah. No, for sure.
Pretty.
But you know, you're going to probably find a nice age class. And I mean, I'd just tell anybody, it's like, listen, it is more difficult to not only size, but sex up, you know, a goat. But once you get a few things down, you just got to look at a couple, but, I don't even know if you care, but, but you know, if you're looking for a billy, you know, I've always been able to spot the billies, but sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I'd say I'll call him anywhere between, I'll just say he's anywhere from 8.5 to 10 like inches, I'm like, he's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I can generally get it to like close to, he's 9, he's 9.5, he's 10, I mean, a big goat is just like any other animal, like they stand out.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh no, that thing's huge. Like, let's go after him.
Yeah. In our regulations here in BC, the regulation is written as any mature goat, basically. But there's an asterisk on it that says, please try your best to harvest Billy. So
absolutely.
Everybody does their part.
Was the same way.
Yeah. I think Alaska, can't you not hunt them for 3 years if you harvest a nanny by mistake? Isn't that it?
Not where I was hunting. I mean, maybe it's changed, but I'm sure the regulations are different depending, because maybe that part of Alaska that borders BC, there might be that way. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So you're a big elk guy now, hey? And I guess what I want to ask you is, what's kind of your favorite hunt been to date?
Well, I mean, my favorite, I don't know.
That's a loaded question, right?
Yeah, because there's lots of, there's what's my favorite hunt for memory's sake, for trophy, for danger. I don't know. I mean, I definitely cherish my archery elk hunts, and specifically the ones where I have interaction with the animal, like not necessarily like me calling. I don't call that much, but like just being able to get in amongst them and just observe them, right? Where they're rutting, they're doing their thing. It's a special time of year. It's a special time in that animal's life. You get to sit there and plant yourself there and just watch like dinosaurs just fight and go after it. And, I've been fortunate enough to be witness to that several times and, harvest some pretty decent bulls. But I mean, the size of the bull isn't really all that important. It's that experience that I want, and that up close experience. And I just say it's for me anyways, it's as close as I'll get to, to hunting dinosaurs, that I got left. I mean, I've been able to take brown bear and stuff like that, but just the aggression that those animals have that time of year, and the vocal, and you can feel it reverberating in your chest, and just the opportunity to get that close in archery season. Like, it fires me up all year. I mean, honestly, that's kind of one of the things that motivates me all year to train and practice and, all those other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was actually literally just talking to somebody about this that's not a hunter. And I was trying to explain to him like why I'm passionate about elk hunting and why like this time of year when I think about hitting the drive-through because it's convenient, I don't do it, and I'm going to suffer for it later in a few months from now. Right. And it's hard to put into words, man, like why elk hunting is so cool, but it's one of those things.
Well, hunters in general, and like I said, I'm an archery hunter. I got nothing against rifle hunting at all. But what I enjoy about archery hunting, but more in general hunting, is, and the non-hunter doesn't understand it maybe, is you being able to have witness to these animals' lives, and you get to see some amazing things. You get to see some, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching things. But being able to sit there and experience that and kind of thinking, like, I'm sitting here in my office and I'm like, that's going on. Those animals are out there 24/7 kind of living this life. And you just, as a hunter, get to see some of that and experience that. And I think if non-hunters, even if they chose never to want to actually pull the trigger, but they were able to experience that, I think they would have a different appreciation for what hunters like experience and value in that animal interaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I mean, I often wondered to myself, how can people just not be all just like completely ate up with like the idea of wildlife and like all these cool wild places that us as hunters go see, and we go experience these animals. And like you're saying, watch them interact with each other. Like the unit that I hunt is a 6-point zone. And so it's like I often spend afternoons hanging out with 5-point bulls because there's no 6 points that want to play. But man, it's still a win to me. It's like I didn't get to cut a tag or whatever, but I'm stoked, and I am not. There's very little chance that I bail out of that scenario to go try to find a 6-point when there's only 5 points there, because I like watching. Like.
I think you're going to be a really disappointed hunter if the only way you measure success is, with an animal or the certain size of an animal. Last year we were in this basin and we thought there was a big bull in there, and he gave us a slip at some point. But anyways, we're sitting there glassing, and I watched, a black bear sow and 3 cubs just play and romp and walk all over this basin for 4 hours, kind of waiting for this bull. And I was like, well, the bull didn't show up, but damn, that was a heck of a show. Like, how cool was that to watch? You know? And I think you have to appreciate those kind of things.
Yeah, man, for sure. I think, kind of shifting gears a little bit here, I kind of think like some of those stories for us as hunters, I think that's kind of important to share, to kind of be like, hey, we're not just about putting an arrow through something and cutting a tag. It means more to us than that, right?
I believe that to be true. I mean, I can't speak for every hunter, but I would think the vast majority of us, like, that may or may not be what drew us, to the hills, but I think that's what keeps us there, is that constant going back and checking in. And you just get to see some of the most unique stuff that you would, unless you sit down and glass a hillside, you're not going to see some stuff. And you're not going to sit down and glass a hillside unless you're going to go hunt, right? Like most people that go hike are just going to go hike or ski or bike or whatever it is, you know? But when you consciously go out there and you're like, no, I'm going to do this thing, and kind of look for stuff. And then all of a sudden you start seeing stuff and you're like, wow, that was awesome. When I hunted my brown bear in Alaska, and I was telling a guy this story the other week. And so I don't know, I mean, it's been a while, but so the time frame is a little bit cloudy, but anyways, I dropped in behind this bear. We were on the boat glassing. It was evening. This bear's coming down, and, he's coming down to the beach, and we pulled the boat in about a mile downshore, downwind. And I got out and I started jogging at the bear, who has no idea I'm there. Right. Mm-hmm. And then eventually I get in behind the bear. My buddies are they had to tie the boat up and stuff like that. So it's just me and this bear. And I fell in behind this bear about no more than 200 yards behind this bear. And he's walking through this cottonwood bottom, and he's feeding, and he's just off the beach, and the sun's, kind of starting to set, snow on the mountains. And, I got to spend this time with this bear, and then he beds down, and then I circle around, and I'm sitting on this hill, and I'm trying to figure out, like, what's my approach? And I'm within 60 yards of this bear for, this is what I can't quite remember, but at least 20 minutes, if not a half hour. I mean, he took a nap. And then eventually, he gave me the opportunity, and, ended up killing the bear. But being able to spend that much time that close in the presence of an animal like that, right? That you can kind of sense the presence and the power and the cool factor. And it was just me and this bear. And I'm like, I guess maybe that's one of my most cherished memories, because what other idiot is ever going to do that unless you're out there hunting a bear, right? Like,
totally.
Nobody's ever going to go, hey, there's a bear. Let's go get behind him and walk behind him. It's like, and so you find yourself in these super cool, unique situations that just, I don't know, man. Like, again, I know it sounds cliche-ish, but it enriches my life. And like, those are things I think about and keep firing me up to want to go back and experience something more.
Man, you know what? I have a kind of a funny one too. Like last season, I kind of whiffed on the ball on September 3rd in archery season here, and I kind of the elk sort of moved off my hill, so I was kind of scrambling, and then it spent all season relocating the herd. And then one of the last days that I could hunt, because we were heading to southern Alberta to chase mule deer, but one of the last days I could hunt elk, I got inside the herd and I knew where the bulls were, but I got pinned down by the cows. I just couldn't move, just got stuck there. And if I would have moved, it would have blown out the cows and then the bulls would have taken off too. But I literally spent my entire day sitting on cows and it was wicked. Like I was like, hey, well, my elk tag isn't getting cut this year, but this is rad. Like I have the coolest videos ever from being like 40 yards from these cows, and they're just cruising around, chirping at each other. Like there's not a situation other than trying to kill a bull that would have happened. Like, I don't know, man. There's something special. And
I think it makes you a better hunter too, right? Just being able to observe, seeing their interactions, what you can get away with, what they're doing. Like, but I think that's the real. I mean, you know, the meat is super important to me, but that's the real gift though when you get to experience that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, I mean, you hear about it from some of these dudes in Colorado when they're talking about like some of these recreational trails and stuff that head through like, you know, elk country or mule deer country. And like, you know, there's hikers out doing yoga in bedding areas and stuff like that. There's a real connection between hunters and the wildlife. And like in the off season, I mean, the majority of us aren't going to go push them around in, you know, their wintering areas, because we know they need to focus on getting feed and resting up and all that kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's hilarious. I've heard that, like doing yoga in some deer's bed. You know, the sad part is they think they're interacting with wildlife, and what they don't realize is there's 50 mule deer that they just pissed off and blew out of a basin.
Yeah. Yeah. And they often end up hurting because of it. Right.
Yeah. Oh, especially depending on the time of year. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was on Chris Rowe's podcast. I think there's actually some studies, and I think they were either done in the Frank Church, I don't know, somewhere in the US, but there were some studies done where they had two controls. They had a control that was left undisturbed, and they had another one where the biologists were on purpose moving them off wintering ranges, and they were looking at calf mortality, and it was significant.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I don't know I'm not a shed hunter really. And, I'm not a shed hunter, right? Like by the definition of today's definition, but yeah, that's why they've had to start imposing, seasons and restrictions of where you can go, because, you know, people are going in there and blowing these animals off their winter range and, just to pick up a shed. And what they're doing is they're damaging the herd because they're at their most vulnerable apparently. Mm-hmm. And so we really have to be conscious of that, I guess. And unfortunately, I'm not a guy that likes to see a bunch of rules and restrictions, but I just think we're going to see more when it comes to things like shed hunting and going out and certain, you know, I don't want them to shut the woods off or the mountains certain times a year, but, you know, people just have to be aware of it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the answer. I don't think they would probably want to put a red blob on a map either, being like, hey, this is where the deer are in the winter. I could see that being counterproductive too. But yeah, no, I'm not plugged into the shed thing either. I got other stuff to do this time of year. But cool.
Yeah.
So you landed in Montana. Is that did Sitka bring you there, or was it elk?
Oh no, Sitka. Yeah. Actually, when I retired, I moved to Salt Lake City for a little while. Oh, cool. And I was thinking I'd live there because I did a lot of time training down there. I had some friends. I knew the area pretty good. And, I mean, the hunting's good, although they don't draw too many great tags in a lifetime down there. But but yeah, no, Sitka brought me up here, and man, I mean, hopefully this is where I spend the rest of my days. I really enjoy the state. It's a nice place.
It's one of the only states that I haven't been to in the US, but I intend to at some point. So
you might be one of the few people left in North America who hasn't been to Montana. Everybody and their brother wants to come now.
That's what I hear.
No, it is. It's cool. It's nice. And it's, there's a few cities, but they're not big cities. They're not Vancouver. They're not Salt Lake. So, that's cool.
Yeah.
Still a little room to spread.
I'm trying to escape the cities as much as possible. So,
no, me too.
So, leaving the military, you end up at Sitka, and correct me if I'm wrong. You're the big game product manager. Is that it?
Yeah, that's the title. Yeah, which basically means you know what it means? It means I'm the jack of all trade, master of none, which is perfect for me.
Wicked.
Yeah, but generally speaking, it's like I manage kind of everything big game related, and we define big game as like, everything other than white-tailed deer, right? So white-tailed deer separate at Sitka, kind of, all the Western species, all the species we talked about so far, kind of considered big game. And then I manage the development, the design, and, what we make. And, I was able to, create a new camo pattern, the subalpine pattern I was able to create with some knowledge I had from the military, and then just kind of manage the financial part of the business. So it's super cool because in any given day I could be, looking at some spreadsheet that's boring the hell out of me. And the next day I'm working with a designer making this, world-class, cool, whatever, or I could be in the field testing it, which I'm very hands-on. So I don't want to, I don't do anything. I don't launch anything. I don't put my name on anything that I haven't, tested and kind of lived up to my standards. So it's cool because I can leverage a bunch of my, skill sets and still work at a hunting company and have some fun. Yeah,
that's wicked. I mean, I think everybody that helps me with the podcast or contributes to it, I think we all run some piece of Sitka kit. And so kind of my dude that I host a lot of these with, Wasey, he's from Alberta, and he was like, I got a story for John. He couldn't come on today because he's on shift, but he was out hunting, and right when I guess Sitka hit the market, way back in the day, I don't know what it was, like 2007 or 2008 maybe.
2008, yeah.
And he went out and he bought like the full setup to go hunting whatever, and I think it was like Mothwing or something back then, right? And he's dialed, he's feeling good, which is half of buying any cool gear. But he's like looking the part, ready to rock. And Wasey's an absolute killer too, sidebar. But this dude comes up to him that he's going hunting with, a guy that I don't know how much they had hunted together, but he comes up to him, and this dude's wearing the latest Browning, whatever, probably cotton setup is. And he's going, I don't know what that is, man, but you should really invest in some high-end camo like this. And he's got this like, but I thought you get a good kick out of that. So.
Well, good thing your buddy didn't take that guy's advice.
No shit. I've had great success with my Sitka gear too. That freaking, what's that soft like hoodie thing with the ninja mask built into it?
Is it the Fanatic hoodie?
Yeah, I think so.
Or the Apex hoodie.
It's real lightweight. It's like a thin one.
Oh, the core lightweight hoodie.
Yeah, core lightweight. That thing doesn't. I run Kafaru packs, and on one of the belt pouches on the outside of my pack. I have a small belt pouch and that thing doesn't leave it. And like, if I'm like in between layers or whatever, and like I'm about to do a stalk, that thing goes on. Or if the weather changes ever so slightly, that thing goes on. Like that thing in any photo of me in the bush, that thing's like pulled over a puffy to make it quiet. Or it's like my favorite, my favorite nice. Piece of kit, man. I love that thing. It's so handy.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the pieces of kit that I just have with me all the time as well. Mm-hmm. Like it's so versatile, and I love the mask. You know, I don't mind painting my face, but like sometimes setups happen really quick, and like just being able to pull that mask up and give you a little camo and yeah.
Yeah, I'm like a perpetual cold guy too. Like I'm always freezing, and like even that like little thin layer of stuff, pull that up on your face. It makes a big difference, man. Like glassing in Alberta and stuff like that.
Awesome. A perpetual old guy. I got to use that if you don't mind. That's hilarious.
It's all yours. It's no, man. Like I'm a big fan of the gear, and I'm a big fan of yours, Barklow. That's why I was like, we gotta get you on here and do some chatting. So before we move on from the Sitka stuff, what's your favorite piece of kit that you guys make?
Man, that's a loaded question, but I have a few, but so you already mentioned the Core Lightweight Hoodie, which I like, but there's one other jacket that I tend to take with me pretty much year round. And that's something called the Kelvin Active jacket.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's an active insulation. So it's kind of a heavyweight fleece, but it's lighter. It's kind of a heavyweight fleece, but it's more durable. And, you know, I can put it on. It's my early season puffy, and I can layer it later season to add warmth. So, you know, that's definitely another one of my favorite pieces. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard, right? They're almost like your kids when you come up with this stuff and you launch them out into the world. Like you kind of love them. You kind of love them all, you know. I'm also a huge fan of wind stopper, like anything that blocks the wind.
Yeah.
Not rain gear, but so, you know, we've had a few things over the years, like little light windbreakers, but you know, the one we have now is a mountain jacket. So, you know, like for upper body, I would say the Core Lightweight Hoodie, the Kelvin Active jacket, and the mountain jacket, they just seem to always end up in my pack, you know, no matter what the time of year. And yeah.
That's awesome. The, you know, a piece of kit that I think has been in on every deer I've killed in the last while has been those stinking Sitka merino liners. They're like
just the gloves.
Yeah. Yeah. You just ball those things up. They take up no space. They're light. Like they're the best.
Yeah. You can out in a puffy. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I'm a bit of a gear junkie for sure, but, Sitka fills a lot of holes in a lot of different, systems for me for sure. I love the stuff. So.
Yeah. You know, and that's cool. And I think, well, what's cool is what you said. It fills a lot of holes in my system, or, you know, it's a part of my system. And listen, I want everybody to buy everything Sitka because I believe in it, or I wouldn't work there. Right. But again, the reality is, okay, maybe you do like another pair of pants from somebody, and maybe you do like another set of rain gear from somebody else. Right. And I'm like, yeah, fine. Awesome. Go for it. All I kind of say or mention is, and just make sure what you put together works for you the way you want it to. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think what happens is a lot of people, and I can be guilty of this as well, right, with other stuff, but we all want to buy what's, you know, the most popular thing at the time, or that, you know, your buddies are pushing or somebody's pushing on social.
Yeah.
And it just might not be the best piece of kit for you. Mm-hmm. But you know, ultimately it's like, yeah, if you're thinking through it and you're like, yeah, man, I love these pants because they fit and they dry and they're durable or whatever. And I like this, and I throw in a couple Sitka jackets and a caribou pack. And it's like, then you're just literally custom building your system to what exactly works for you. And then if it doesn't, then you're like, okay, well, that piece, you know, that puffy jacket didn't work. maybe I should look at buying a different puffy jacket. And then you just go shop for that, try that, drop that in your system, and then see how that works, And,
one thing that is really cool about Sitka, and that I put a lot of stock into, like, for most of us being like blue collar working guys that are paying, full price at whatever retailer we're buying this stuff from, right? With Sitka, like, that it's been through the test that it needs to go through in order for, a guy like you to put your name on it. Right. So like, you go buy rain gear, it's not going to fail when you're on that hunt that you've been planning for the last 24 months and saved a bunch of money and booked your only time off of work to go do. And like, it's a huge factor, man. And I think we've all had pieces of gear that have failed in situations that were either dangerous or potentially ruined a hunt. Right.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I take it personally, the gear that, I'm involved with. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not the only person that tests it. I'll tell you that my opinion is the last one that matters. And I'm the one that signs off on it, so if I don't believe in it, I'm not going to do it. But I take a lot of other people's input. Mm-hmm. I've got guys that'll, if I need 30 days of use on a pair of pants, I mean, I know guys that'll give me that in 30 days because they're out there every single day.
Yeah.
We just launched that Dew Point rain jacket and mm-hmm. pants. And I'm trying to think, it took me like 3 years to bring that to market, but I think I had a gentleman down in Colorado, and he had 650 miles of use on a test set, right? And so I got it back from him. I put it in the lab to make sure there wasn't anything that I couldn't visually see. And then I got it back, and he's like, "Hey, can I have it back?" And I'm like, "Damn, you want it back?" He's like, "Yeah," because we hadn't launched it yet. And I was like, "Yeah, you can have it back." But there's a big difference between. I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but there's a big difference between just wearing something and like truly testing it, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If I give somebody something, I'm like, "Hey, I need you to try these pair of pants, and I need to test the durability of them." So if you're just going to walk down a trail with no brush, it's not going to do me any good. But if you're going to go do a bunch of snow machining through brush and climbing over blowdown, chasing cats and post holing through snow, like that'll work,
Yeah.
And so you really do have to pick the right test for the right product, mm-hmm. or you're just kind of like, I think we're all just kidding ourselves. Yeah.
And I mean, exactly what you're saying, like my personal kit is so far refined down because I destroy shit. Like I'm not easy on anything. Like the guy at the bow shop mm-hmm. gives me a hard time every year because every year my bow comes back when a cam has a freaking dent in it and the thing's all beat up and it needs a string, right? Like we use our stuff. And no, that's cool, man. It's so cool to hear a manufacturer or a brand puts the stuff through the paces like it would actually get put through in the real world. Because you often hear, "Oh, it's the toughest thing," blah, 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 blah. And you're like, is it actually though? Or are you just telling me something,
Yeah. It's tough to say it's the toughest, the best. I mean,
yeah,
I don't like definitive statements like that. But, mm-hmm. If I say, "Hey, it's durable," I believe it's durable. And I can back that up. I mean, we have a pair of Timberline pants been in the market forever.
Yeah.
I know outfitters, guides, friends of mine that are getting 400 days. So maybe 200 days in 2 seasons, right? So 400 days of wear off one pair of pants. The vast majority of people are never going to wear a pair of Timberline pants out, right? Before they either get too fat, too skinny, or they get tired of the color. So, some of this stuff is an investment is what I like to say, because you're going to have it for a long time. So take the time, make the right decision for yourself. And, the other thing is like with us, we have a pretty robust warranty. We stand behind our gear and, if it breaks and it happens to be your fault, there's a good chance we'll repair it for a pretty good price. So, it's just, hey man, it's like, that's what I would want, And so that's what we try to do.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked Sitka on this podcast a few times, and Wasey has sent some stuff back for warranty that he couldn't believe that you guys actually didn't repair it. You just sent him new stuff back and didn't charge him, and the stuff was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old or something. And then I killed the knee in a pair of pants that you guys fixed up for me. And I mean, yeah, no, it's a great company offering a great service, offering a great product. I mean, I don't think you can ask for more.
Yeah, we're just hunters trying to help other hunters out. So
yeah, that's awesome.
That's the way I look at it anyways.
Hey, that new dew point, that I think it's like pretty ultralight rain gear. Is that a good system for a dude in BC? Because like I'm asking for myself now. is that like a system I should look at? Because like I'm down here on a couple hours off the coast, and like I chase blacktail in this thick coastal tangle here, but I also end up, in southern Alberta. I don't really need it, but like the middle of BC and the caribou chasing mule deer and stuff like that.
Yeah, rain gear. Any rain gear, I mean, if you're just like busting brush and climbing over blowdown, like it just takes a lot of abuse. You're going to wear it out quicker. So I'm going to give you kind of a half-ass answer, but I'll get to my point. But so if you just know that you're going to be in wet conditions and you're just going to be beating the hell out of rain gear, and maybe your best option is to buy something that's relatively inexpensive that you can just replace every year.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure that anything super high end it's going to last longer, but when you replace it, it's going to cost a lot more money. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
But if you're out, just in the mountains, not in those super thick tangles, you're going through brush, you're climbing over some blowdown, on occasion, but it's not like your life. Mm-hmm. Then yeah, I think that like the dew point is going to be, as an example, a perfect rain gear. So it's a 3-layer rain gear. So that's pretty durable construction. It's got a protection on the inside and outside for the actual waterproof part. It's nylon. So nylon's a really durable face. And it's going to breathe good enough, right? I mean, everybody likes to talk about breathability. The reality is anytime you put rain gear on, no matter whose rain gear or what it is, you're going to have to slow down or you're going to sweat out. Mm-hmm. You just are.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. And so I like to say, to me, rain gear is like car insurance. I don't want to buy it, but I know I need it. And I want to buy the best I can afford, because when the day comes that I actually need it, I really need it. In regards to rain gear, like nothing else is going to keep you dry, but rain gear when it's really raining and snowing. And if you consider rain gear, or really all clothing, is kind of like your first survival items, right? Your first line of defense against the elements.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want to skimp, or maybe you just want to buy something super cheap and throw it away every year because you're going to tear it up. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody kind of has to decide that, but you also have to understand the limitations of it. It's like we make some high-end rain gear that's very expensive, that's going to be very durable, has a lot of bells and whistles for like the guide and outfitter who's going to live in it. Mm-hmm. I hope to never put my rain gear on when I go on a hunt. I just know it's a reality. I'm going to have to, but so it's like, we're all trying to balance that. So it's like, listen, I want something mid-priced. I want something that's lightweight. I want something that isn't going to give me an excuse to leave behind. And, I want to always in my pack. Mm-hmm. And, and that's what that dew point is. It's like the perfect, like, it took me a long time to kind of find a laminate to get back to where we were. And it's like 1.5 pounds for the whole thing, for jacket and pant combined, 1.5 pounds. It's nylon. It's 3-layer. It sits in the bottom of my pack. And if I need it, it's just going to work and save my ass. Like it just is.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to go if I'm going to go rock climb in it or ice climb in it or climb over blowdown for, a month, yeah, it's going to get beat up. I mean, anything is, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to give you an honest answer here.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
Rain gear's a tough one,
Yeah, rain
gear's a tough.
Rain gear's a hole in my system right now. I'm running a heavier rain gear top and a little bit of a lighter weight kind of rock climbing 4-way bottom, but the top right now is where I'm struggling because it's heavy. Because I find I always end up in it, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about that real quick. So rarely are you ever going to wear a rain jacket out.
Yeah.
You're going to wear and tear up the rain pants. That's really where you're going to see the abuse, right? Because that's what's going to be punching through the snow, rubbing against the brush, climbing over the logs. It's the pants. The jacket, not so much. I think you'd want to look at the dew point jacket. I mean, off the top of my head, it's hard for me to remember, but I want to say it's I want to say it's less than a pound, the jacket in a size large.
I was looking. I was shocked how light it was.
Yeah, no, it's crazy light. It's an awesome laminate. It's just got enough features. Like it's got hand pockets. It's got pit dips. It's got, obviously your hood.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you need, right?
Yeah.
But it's so super lightweight. You're not gonna talk yourself out of bringing it. And then maybe you run a pair of pants like where you are. Maybe you run some cheaper pants that you're just going to destroy every year, and you're just going to buy another $100 pair of rain pants every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, that's an option for you.
I like it. That's what I'm doing. I'm buying a dew point. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I hope I don't get in trouble for this. I'm joking, but not promoting Sitka. But if I were you, from what I understand you do, obviously we just met, I'd run a dew point jacket, and I'd look at something like a Marmot preset pair of pants for $99.
Yeah, I run a very similar pant to that right now. It's like it's like a Mountain Hardwear 4-way.
There you go. Same kind of deal.
Yep.
Outdoor research makes that.
Yep.
I used to run that stuff in Alaska and beat the piss out of it and just throw it away at the end of the season. We'll block
the Sitka admin from hearing that part of the podcast.
Yeah. No, but it's all about trying to get the right tool for the right job. And I'd hate for anybody to spend the money and think that they were going to get a piece of kit that worked for them and then use it in the wrong application.
Yeah. And I mean, the honesty speaks freaking volumes, John. Like, you hear that. Yeah. You hear with some other brands, this is the be all end all. And every time, like anybody that's gone out in the field and wrecked some shit, you do a massive eye roll when you hear that. It's like,
exactly.
You hear it with bow manufacturers all the time. This is the best bow ever. And it's like, okay, it has a 2% change since last year. Come on.
Yeah, right.
I have one last gear question for you. Okay.
Yeah.
What pant in the Sitka lineup is a good, like early to mid season, not like an insulated pant that is durable, but good for sneaking around in? So basically I'm looking for a pant to wear all the time that I won't rip holes in, but won't be super loud.
So if you want a pant without knee pads, then get the Traverse pant.
Okay.
It's an awesome pant. It's going to be maybe just a skosh hot on the warmest days,
mm-hmm.
but you can layer underneath it and take it right to the edge of winter. And it's been a really good performer and a quiet pant for what I'll call like guys that are super kind of picky.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a pant that's lighter than that, but it's not going to be quite as durable. So there's a Traverse pant. And then if you want the ability to run knee pads, my kind of default is the Ascent pant.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the knee pads are so nice. I mean, you're gonna laugh. We were on the way to Southern Alberta, and my wife sends me a text, and it's a picture message, and it's a photo of a set of Sitka. I think do Apexes have knee pads in them?
Yeah,
is a set of Apexes. And she's like, "Did you want these?" So I spent the next 7 days picking cactus out of my knees.
Oh, yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. So the Apex are the quietest pant I make in big game. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be, they're not going to be quite as durable. Snyder and I were down in Texas hunting Aoudad in April, and I mean, the pants they held up. It's not like they tore. It's not like they fell apart, nothing like that, but they definitely will show signs of wear.
Yeah.
Where when I was testing the Ascent pant, I sent it on 2 separate Cape Buffalo hunts in Africa, which is notorious for like lots of hiking every day, lots of thorns and stuff like that. And I got him back from the first hunt. I'm like, "Did you even wear these?" And he goes, "Yeah, you saw the pictures." I'm like, "I know, but they don't look like you wore them." And then I put them on another guy and the same thing. And so, yeah, that it really depends what you're chasing.
Yeah, that's exactly why I asked that question. Is I think the Apexes that I have are on year 4 or 5, and they're ready for a replacement. I'm being selfish.
Absolutely.
I'm being selfish with your time a little bit. I'm asking a bunch of questions for myself, so hopefully the audience still enjoys it.
Yeah, we're still covering some stuff, but but it's important because sometimes there's lots of options, right? And sometimes it's not the easiest thing. And when you want to make an investment in a pair of pants and spend $150, $200, you want to make sure that pant is going to work for you, because you're going to have it for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, so that's important.
Okay, before I let you get off the blower here, what you're going on a caribou hunt this year? What else are you excited for in 2021? What's your burning hunting desire right now? What do you want? What are you dying to go do?
Well, so I mean, I'm always like scheming and planning for my elk hunt, and I don't know. I just like that's always front of mind. I probably am not going to draw. I play the point game down here, and so I'm probably not going to draw anything. Mm-hmm. But I've got lots of different hunts lined up, and I look at the hunts for different reasons. Like some it's hanging out with certain friends, some it's just the pure adventure of it, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like, like elk, it's like the one thing that I kind of circle on my calendar every year. So, I'll definitely hunt, I'll definitely hunt antelope down here, and definitely head to Alaska. So I am looking forward to the Alaska thing. One, because I haven't seen my buddy in a while, but 2, because I just want to get back to the state, and that's like a little bit more of an adventure deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll have plenty of tags in my pocket. I think I'm going to try to go back. If they'll have me, I'm going to go back and hunt Aoudad again, because I didn't shoot one, so I'm going to go hunt Aoudad again in November, which is a legitimate, like full on legitimate desert sheep hunt, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So at least where I went.
Yeah, we were talking to Snyder about that. It doesn't look like Texas. When you think about Texas, it's like, no, that's very cool.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. So I don't know. I don't have it all lined out yet, but I mean, there's probably like, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but there's probably at least 8, maybe 10 hunts on the calendar that I'm trying to plan and go do. And some are just by myself, and some are with friends, and some are out of state, and some are just local, but they're all different. And, but I just love it, man. I mean, I just love, obviously I want to be successful. I'm not going out there purposely to fail, but I'm just looking forward to getting out there and getting after it. So I got nursing a little bit of a foot injury right now, but I'll definitely be chasing black bears here in the next week for sure.
Right on.
And I already went and hunted turkey a few times this year. That season's over. Me and turkeys don't get along. They're scared of me, clearly. So,
People always say, they're like, oh, turkeys are just like elk. And I can't bring myself to drive the 12 hours to get to where the turkeys are from me to go try.
Yeah. And me neither. And they're relatively close around here, but I'm not even going to drive 2 hours out of my way. But I know guys, and if you think about it, it's not like I'm giving away a secret, but if you think about it, if it's what you do, if it's what you like, I mean, I know guys literally, they'll hit 5-6 states during spring turkey season, hunt, try to shoot their slam. So I think that's 4 different species of birds. And I mean, the tags are cheap. They're easy to draw. Sometimes a lot of times they're over the counter. Mm-hmm, There's very little pressure. You can get on private land without spending a fortune. So, I mean, it's just, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot of pros to it. Springtime's kind of a busy time for me, and it's just hard for me to devote that much. Like I'd much rather go try to find black bear and get close to black bear than a turkey, given the choice,
Yeah.
So
my hunting mentor, Ronnie, I was talking to him, maybe we should go do a turkey hunt. And he's like, in the spring, I think we should be teaching our kids how to swim, because we're in the fall, we're out of here, man.
Yep. Yeah. It's all about priorities, right?
Yeah. I was, Jeff Lander from Primitive, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Jeff is, I might go see,
a good dude.
He is a good dude. I might go see him, not next week, the week after. We're kind of just waiting to see what happens with some stuff in BC here. It's locked down pretty tight, but, anyways, I've kind of been sort of on the fence a little bit, because sort of whenever I take, some time in the spring to go do a bear hunt, like a multi-day bear hunt, I sort of lose some of that time away in the fall, with having a gang of kids and stuff. Right.
Yeah. I don't have the kid issue. Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, it's tragic, and I don't use that word loosely. Like, as tragic as it is that the border is not open, and there's friends like Jeff and several others that, I have up there that are kind of suffering.
Oh yeah.
Man, when that border opens again, I may be the first in line to go black bear hunt, because there are going to be some old giants walking around with not a care in the world.
You bet. I mean, I had Jeff on here the other night. He and I BS all the time. But I mean, you should see some of the photos of the bears, and it's only, this will be season 2. It's been closed, right? I think they normally take 50 bears out of there, and he hasn't this will be the second year of no clients.
It might just be flat out dangerous up there, right?
Yeah.
For just the people that live in there. You have to manage that population.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm all about big black bear with bow, and I assume by next year, or hopefully by this fall, it's open for them, but by next spring, it's going to be the land of giants up there.
Yeah, no doubt. The bears up there.
It's always good anyways. Yeah, even when they're managing it, it's good.
That's what I was just going to say. The bears are always good up here. It's going to be just nuts, though. I think. It's pretty wild. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I think I've taken up enough of your time for today. I appreciate you coming on so much, and thanks for letting us steal some of your knowledge, and thanks for doing everything you do on your Instagram now, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's a fun conversation, and I really didn't know going into this that we had several mutual friends. I'm sure we have even more we haven't mentioned. So that was cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. A lot of it seems like when people do this podcast, we usually end up being friends with them and staying in touch. So I have your phone number now. So good luck.
Right on.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a review. If you want to support the podcast, please check out the gear on our website at wildernesslocals.net.